Hey guys, welcome to another van build episode. In this episode, we're going to work on the step back into the cab. So one of the things that I want to do is have a place for your feet for when the seats are swiveled around. Sitting up there and seeing the size of it, I think I want to make it about 9 inches, and then this piece that goes in should hopefully lay flush on the top piece there. The other thing I got to figure out is how far out we need it. One of the things I need to take into account is we're going to have a bench seat here with a pull-out fridge, and I got to make sure that there's room for the fridge to be able to pull out from under the bench without interfering with either the step or our electric compartment that's further back. We also want to have a spot in the future for a Webasto heater or S-bar heater, so I got to figure in between the electrical and fridge compartment that there will be a little place on the floor that we'll be able to access. I'm going to start just doing some measurements, drawing up some plans on a notebook, and then we'll kind of see from there how it's going to go. Hey guys, just got a shipment of 3/4 inch birch ply. 3 sheets of it. This is going to be our kitchen, our couch, and our pull-out pantry. Basically everything left to make. And I got one more 5x5 1/2 inch piece of birch, and this is going to be that step into the cab. So I am going to mark off 9.5 inches because I think that's the upright. I want to do 2 9.5 inch pieces for the bottom. From the leftover piece, we will cut out that kind of T that will fit over the top of it all. Cut this piece to 29 inches wide. It is what will fit in between the seats. So now we just got to get the measurements for the seats and cut those out. And then the piece at the end is what sits over those 2 rails. There's our T. All right, let's see how it fits. Part of the problem straight away is that it's just a little bit too long here, but that basically is how that step will look. I cut 3 uprights and a piece where hopefully we can figure out the angle so that the step can be curved as you come in the door, because our countertop is going to come out to where I am sitting. And so we want there to be enough room to walk through the walking area, because there's just about 20 inches or so. And so having something in the middle of the walkway wouldn't be too great. Got this cut off at an angle. Just use the circular saw, which I don't think it's really quite the angle that I need. I'm putting this and meeting it to where the first upright should probably be, and then I'm going to measure where that is and then cut off the other board to fit. I was working on one board with the angle quite a bit, and I could not get that one to line up. The piece that I cut off when I cut this to 38 inches, I am using for this long end, and I'm basically just allowing it to go over the edge, so from any view it looks like it's nice and triangular. And then when we put the cover over the top, we'll cut the triangle so that it matches all the way to the end of that. So it should be good there. And then this, I kind of just did a 15-degree angle, which matches up pretty well. I think part of it is my miter saw is off on the angle a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and pocket jig the uprights to the smaller board. There we go, all pocket screwed up. for these two, I'm going to go ahead and just pocket screw these, which I should have done to begin with, and then be pretty golden. Well, another day to start working on the step here. We've had a lot of rain recently, so haven't been able to really do much of anything. This is going to angle in, as we talked about earlier. And so far, this board can't sit flush at all because it's too long. So I'm going to cut off, I think, 4 inches to hopefully match around this corner. And then we can try to figure out what that angle is and be able to cut that off. Katie brought up a really good point. Originally, I just wanted to pick this whole thing up and move it out of the way. But she brought up the fact that when we're going to have the bench seat there, that might be stopping the end of this from coming up. So I think I'm just going to buy some door hinges and put the door hinges in the middle, and then just have the end of the step be what picks up, and then we can hopefully slide whatever we need into the back side of this part. One of the things I want to do first though is get this board attached. We're going to use those M8 bolts that are on, right by the seat. They were for tie down point, so we'll probably use those same tie down point bolts, these ones here. I don't know if I'll use just the washer or actually use this because it will give more surface area over it. Well, these M8 bolts aren't long enough to actually catch. They kind of have a smaller run up at the beginning until you get to the threads, and that smaller thread, skinnier threads, isn't enough to hold the board in place. So I'm gonna have to buy some, I think these are probably 1 inch. I'll probably have to buy like 1.5 inches. So I'll have to go do that, and I'll probably pick up those hinges as well, and then we can see where we go from there. I got 40mm machine screws to go into those pieces, and so this is in damn solid on the bottom, but this will pull up to it when we put in those pocket screws. So I put this together, kind of held here, put the cover over the top, and then I just took my pencil and scribed this line on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out of that T that we had. Well guys, I decided I'm going to do 2 separate hinges. So my plan is this middle section, I'm going to cut it 2 inches into the box so that it will sit on both the outside lip and the cross piece in between the 2 rails, and that'll give extra support on that. This side piece here, I'm going to cut down to that 2 inch mark, and then I'm going to cut it off in the middle where that crossbar is going. And then I'm going to put the hinge on the inside here, so that will be able to hinge up on this right side. And then the same thing over here. I had a scrap piece of the ply, so my plan is just to cut it down to size and then notch out whatever that size is for the box in between, and then I will figure out where to cut it off so that part of it hinges and then the other part is flush underneath the cabinet. Got that piece that extends in. Just even putting on all my weight on it, it's definitely sturdy. Same with this, and this will have that piece underneath as well. Where the cross is, I'm actually going to put up 2 other members so that this can be on one, and then the one coming from over here will be on the other. So now I just got to figure out what size to cut this down to, and then we'll go ahead and get that going. Well, it rained again, so I had to pick everything up and get inside, but here we go. So this piece will have a 3/4 inch board on the front, and then there will be a board sitting behind, so you can see there, and that will be screwed into this board. So this will be staying in place because of this one being behind here. There will be a hinge here and here so that these hinge up like this. This one hopefully will be for a lagoon leg once we get it, and then this it'll just be a couple spots. So that'll be screwed in here. I made a block with the angle of it to go inside there, and that will butt up to this board. I guess time to prime and paint, and then we'll see what happens. Morning guys. It's been raining the last few days, so I both primed and painted the first coat of black on all of the step pieces. Still a little bit showing through, as you can see, so I'm hoping to maybe get a second and third coat on today. One of the problems I did find, I glued this on backwards. I wish one of you would have stood up and said something while I was doing that. So all the step pieces have had a handful of days to dry, so I'm going to see about getting the door hinges that I bought installed on them. One of the problems I'm going to run into, I had made 1/2-inch pieces of ply to be able to fit under here because the screws are 1 inch, and so going through a 1/2 inch, I'll need another 1/2 inch below it to make sure that screw's not poking out the back. One of the problems that I'm running into is the midpoint is basically right where this rail goes into the backboard. Screwing through the top board, if it were to be right, one of these holes were to be right on this board, that's where it would screw into, and then that would obviously be locked down. In the back it wouldn't be a problem because that would basically just be holding it in place. I'm going to have to figure out how to space it out so that either I can put a board on this side and then on this side as well. Alright, so I made marks like this, both sides of the board. So the key is going to be putting a spacer on top of this board so that I have the mark on the bottom, but having a board there to figure out where that 1/2 inch space needs to be, then I can make sure to get the pilot holes in the exact spot that I need. I ran into a problem. My plan was to space it with another 1/2 inch board. If I were to do that though, and this was connected to the back, the hinge on the front would have the screws going into the board that's stationary. So then it wouldn't be hinging, it would just basically be screwing the lid down. So I have these cabinet screws, I think they're just a 1/2 inch screw. They seem to fit pretty well in the channel. So, and then it would be enough purchase to not stick out the back. So I think for the back of the board that's stationary in the van, I'm going to put 3 of these screws in, and then I will still use a spacer board that will go underneath the lid to sit in there, and then that way that will be able to clear the lid. I'm going to try that. I'm going to go ahead and screw them into the backboard, get the backboard screwed into the van, and then we'll see about getting the step actually screwed in. We got the left and right sides pocket hold in. I have a clamp holding in the wood glue in that center. I'm hoping everything stays nice and firm. There's a little bit of play, as you can hear. I'm hoping as we screw in that side piece, that will help some of that movement in the center. Sweet! So that's in. These screws didn't make it in all the way to that block that I glued in there. They kind of came in at an angle and just kind of held it a little bit. So I don't know if I'll get a longer screw in the future. As for where the drawers are lining up, everything seems to be lining up perfectly for where we put in the hinges. So I just took a pencil and I drew circles of where those holes, where the screws will need to go, and I'll just drill pilot holes in the middle of those. For this one over here, we will just be able to take one of those blocks that we had painted. We'll just glue it to the bottom of the board, making sure that there's enough room for that 1/2-inch backboard going down, and then we'll use those 1-inch screws that came with the hinges and just screw those in through the top board in through this. Same thing over here, but one of the things that we're going to have to figure out is how to get one on this side and then the 2 screws on the opposite side. Cut one of those blocks basically in 1/3 and 2/3. The one on the outside, or inside I guess, will cover the first 2 holes, and then the other one will cover that 3rd hole, and then there will be a channel for where the board runs down, where it comes in, and then there'll be enough space in the back as well. And so these are what the screw will go into, and then hopefully we'll give a nice firm solid connection point for that hinge. So gave the blocks that were glued in the night to dry. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can't get those screws in for the hinges now. Got them all set up exactly where I want. Basically this front edge is what's laying flush. Let's see if we can get this screwed in and call this project good. There we go. They lift up pretty well. This right one though, for some reason, has a little left and right play to it, but it lands all right. I think I'm going to put in some like drawer catches so that they're locked down, and then when we're driving they wouldn't be vibrating back and forth. But other than that, that seam is pretty spot on perfect. It lines up nice and flush on the front. Like I said, this one just got kind of off on the hinge for some reason, but I don't think that should be too big of a deal. Hope you enjoyed following along as we built out this step. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and go ahead and hit that bell to be notified when we post new content. We'll definitely have more videos to come. Looking forward to starting on that next project. We'll see you next week, guys. Bye.